Thanks everybody for coming. I hope you're going to find today's session useful, informative. I quite like to run it as informal as possible. So if you've got any questions, just throw them into the ring as we go. And hopefully I'll be able to answer them. And if I can't, I'll know somebody that can. So don't be afraid. I thought it'd be a useful opportunity, as well as talking about the new relationship with Future Learn and what that means to the Bailiwick of Guernsey. And by the Bailiwick, I mean Alderney and Herm and Sark and everybody that lives on this beautiful island of Guernsey. And what that means in terms of creating a learner account for every Bailiwick resident. So we know that education, lifelong learning is vital to ourselves and to any successful economy. And when we have travelled to other jurisdictions all over the world, we've come to realise that actually there's a lot of work that needs to be done in this particular space. So in our world, we call that human capital development. But in plain English, it just means trying to remove barriers so that everybody has the opportunity to learn when they want, with high quality learning, to suit them and their particular career path, or if they're changing careers or they're trying to get into a new career. So what we're trying to do effectively is to remove as many barriers as possible so everybody has that gift. So what do we do? For those of you that are new to Bright Futures, I thought it would be good just to sort of give you a quick overview, because actually we do quite a bit of stuff in the human capital space. So the first thing we do, and you might know this already, we try to remove funding barriers for people who want to learn. So I'll just give you some very quick examples of where we've supplied funding for stuff to happen. Sometimes it's reactionary, sometimes it's proactive. So the first thing we did, by way of a case study, is we recognised that when the states very helpfully introduced paid preschool hours for mums like me to send their children into nursery or preschool, it was a massive step forward and great. But not everybody was able to take that up for a variety of geographical or social reasons. And even those that could did it on a fairly inconsistent basis, or it wasn't enough and it didn't quite fit with what they were trying to do. So what I observed as a mum was that when my little boy transitioned to reception year, so the first proper year of school, the gap in competence was huge. So what we tried to do was work with a number of different preschools and nurseries on the island to offer them an app that followed the curriculum that the teachers and the workers in preschools and nursery would follow, so that the teachers, the parents and the child could all engage in an aligned curriculum that would ensure that when they transitioned to reception, they could count to 10. They knew their primary colours, they knew their basic shapes. And that's been a massive success story, to the extent that next year we're delighted to say that Easy Peasy is the name of the app, will be rolled out across every single preschool and nursery in the Bailiwick. To move perspective on our lens a little bit, we then do things like supporting people who want to get off to university. So we've helped a grammar school student who wanted to go off to university. Mum and Dad had saved for him to get there, but they hadn't saved enough because this young, bright boy got into Cambridge, and he got into Cambridge to read natural science. And that in practice meant that his fees went from 25 a year to 50 a year. And Mum and Dad couldn't afford that. So he turned to organisations like Bright Futures, who helped him to bridge that gap. We're delighted to say he's just embarked on his second year. Everything's going brilliantly, and we can't wait to welcome him back to the Bailiwick. Our oldest client is 67 years old, and he's in a wheelchair. He's a qualified UK solicitor, and he wanted to transition into the financial services world, having done anything but that over the past 40 years or so, and we're helping him by way of funding him to do a trust qualifications such that he can enter the workplace and do some trust administration type work. And there's a whole spectrum of other people stuck in the middle there, from returning mums and dads, people who've been displaced because of the M&A activity and the market consolidation locally, of which there's quite a few. And so we stand here today quite proudly to say, you know, we've helped 68 local people, and that's not including the Easy Peasy cohort, which is quite something for a volunteer who had a bit of time with a good group of people, including these guys sitting over here that make everything look beautiful, and a good board of directors to make stuff happen, to fill gaps that we desperately need to fill. Because one of the things that we sometimes forget is that we are competing on a global platform. And even though we can't see the guys in Singapore, we know that they speak at least 2 languages and are qualified to master's level. We've got a bit of room to close, a bit of time to do some stuff in that space that will hopefully lead to the sustainability of our economy. We also offer careers advice and guidance. So when we first set up Bright Futures, we thought we would be inundated with school leavers approaching us to say, I don't know what I want to do, where should I go, can you help me? We haven't. We've actually been inundated by probably mid-career people who have had to re-enter the workforce having not worked for a little while, or who are in the workforce and want to transition to do something a bit more value-orientated or something that means something to them rather than just get the paycheck at the end of the month. And so in that respect, the average age of our person, our client, if you like, is 38, and they're typically female. So that's partly because there's been a lot of people who have never had to work but now have to work because their husband's situation has changed, or perhaps they've parted company, they've got divorced, and a whole host of other reasons. But we do this stuff as well. The raising awareness piece, on your tables, there should be some little cards, postcards. I'll just grab one of those. Thanks very much. So please take these away with you, take more, and give them to your friends and family. Every year we put on a conference called the Channel Islands Human Capital Summit, where we leverage our relationships with global networks and organisations to give their perspective on what the future of work is anticipated to look like. So we look at the changing face of the workforce, we look at the changing face of the workplace, and we try to share all of that knowledge with people like you, with business leaders, with policymakers from across the Bailiwick, who can hopefully take that on board and implement some of that into what they do, how they do it, why they do it, and when they do it. So the next event, the next conference is going to be on the 2nd of April, and it's going to be at Beausejour next year. So please have a look at Eventbrite. The details are a bit sketchy at the moment because we're still putting it together, but we have got confirmed the OECD, of which we are a member, the CBI, the Financial Times, Bloomberg is sending one of their economists over, and a shed load of really interesting tech and well-being people. So watch this space, but please get your tickets in as soon as you can. Programmes, which is where today goes. I'm sorry I've been a bit long in sort of getting to this final point. So today is really about telling you, sharing the news of a relationship that we formed with FutureLearn. So why did we do that and where did it come from? Well, our mission when we first established Bright Futures was to change the way we think about lifetime education and its importance in growing and sustaining our economy. And that's still at the heart of what we do. So we're always thinking about how can we help somebody to become more economically valuable or more socially and economically valuable or active in our economy. And that sometimes means that somebody might transition from being in the care of the state to transitioning into work. It can be a multi-stage process. But the benefits in terms of real pounds, shillings and pence and the wider social benefits that we've created so far are really amazing, really, really amazing. And so we're going to carry on with that mission because it's at the heart of everything that we do. And FutureLearn is just another string to our bow in that respect. We ran a survey in May to July this year, and we asked employers on the island a whole shed load of questions around human capital development. And in this respect, what we found was that employees do have training budgets. They seldom use all of their training budget, not because they don't want to or they can't, but because there's a massive time barrier. So when you let somebody out of the organisation and you support them on their development journey, there's a lost opportunity cost in the business and there's a lot of catch-up time which leads to stress, and it's all a bit tricky. So people are less inclined to opt into taking traditional training and so don't. So they stagnate. And I can see, wearing my Bright Futures hat, that when we get approached by people who have been displaced because of the market consolidation, they've been a bit complacent and they haven't upskilled, they haven't invested in themselves. And when they've tried to re-enter the market, and I can tell you we've got about 1,400 vacancies, there's no shortage of jobs here. They can't because the price is wrong, the skill set's wrong. The latest OECD research suggests that there are no shortages of people in OECD countries. There is a shortage of people with the right skill set. And it's not the sort of skill set that you might instantly think about. And we'll come back to that. So our relationship with FutureLearn came about because we wanted to try and partner with an online learning platform. We met with various different companies all over the place, from organisations like Get Smarter through to LinkedIn Learning, through to Amazon. And we came about FutureLearn because I was fortunate enough to be at an EdTech conference in March in London earlier this year, where all the great and the good were there in the EdTech space. And the Chief Executive of FutureLearn presented, and I just thought this would be perfect for Guernsey. So we formed the relationship, we did the legals, the due diligence, both sides, and we started to put together what we thought would be a really great opportunity to create a learner account for every single Bailiwick residence. So we know in our society, although prima facie Guernsey seems to be a very affluent and beautiful, everything's fine island, there are a huge number of people, I'm sure John will know best of all, there are a huge number of our islanders who, for social reasons, cannot access courses at the college or the GTA or other learning methodologies. And so what we tried to do was create an enrichment in the local community that would allow people to re-fall in love with learning, to have that taste of that micro-learning unit for free in a tried and tested way. FutureLearn has been around for a long time. It is a spin-off from the Open University, and it's had a $50 million investment from a private Australian organisation called Seek. They have done all the legwork for us. They've partnered with the best universities, the best professional learning institutions from all over the world, and they've brought all of that on a platform to organisations like Bright Futures, who in turn can bring it to the community. So our aim is to try to, one, listen to what the survey said, to act on it, and to try to create as much value around that for people in a community as we can. What's exciting about this is that you can learn when you want, how you want, in the bath, waiting for the children to finish school. You can learn how you want, wherever you want, in any number of disciplines. So it might be you're wanting to upskill because you need to upskill in a particular area of your current career. Or it could be, actually, you'd just like to know a bit more about this whole wellness stuff that's going on, and you've got a bit of time, you're going to do that free micro-learning unit to see what it's all about. Or it might be that you know your digital literacy is quite low, and so you might want to pragmatically upskill yourself in your own time, at your own pace, in that particular vein. By doing that, you will literally be joining millions of people on the platform already fulfilling their ongoing training and needs, training and skills needs as their careers and as the workplace evolves. And it's entirely flexible and it's targeted at all age ranges. So if you're a teenager, you can enroll. If you're a working mum and you've got a very busy domestic life and a very busy professional career, and you've got about 10 minutes each day for yourself and you want to dedicate it to doing something like this, then lend itself beautifully to that. Equally, my mum has just enrolled on a FutureLearn programme, and she's got MS. She is pretty much housebound now, but she still wants to learn because she loves learning. And this lends itself to all of those different areas of our society. Most of all, it lends itself to people living in Alderney, in Sark, in Herm. It lends itself to people who are affluent, who are very poor, and everybody in the middle. It lends itself to all age groups. It doesn't matter if you're working full-time, part-time. It lends itself to everybody. So what we're trying to do is encourage people to take this opportunity and start learning. So how does it work? What do you have to do? So the first thing you have to do is to visit the Bright Futures website. Nice and easy. When you've done that, you can see a tab at the top of the page called Programs. Click on Programs, and it's particularly important you do it this way, and I'll tell you why in just a moment. And then there's a whole eclectic suite of different tiles and courses on that page that you can have a look at. You click through the tile or the subject area that you're interested in. You'll be presented with a FutureLearn page which says this is how you start with it. You can do the micro-learning module for free. And at that point, if you say, actually, I really like this, I want to do the certificate or the diploma, or I want to go for the full degree or the master's degree or a PhD in this particular subject, although many years ahead, then you come back to Bright Futures for funding, who can help you with some of the financial aspects of that particular programme that you're wanting to undertake. So it's fairly easy. If you go through the FutureLearn website directly, it's much more difficult for them to track geographically where those hits are coming from. But if you go through the Bright Futures website, they're waiting to catch you straight away. So please go through the Bright Futures website and tell anybody who's interested to please go through the Bright Futures website. Okay, so you click on the Bright Futures website, you click on programs, you start your learning journey. If you need funding, come back to Bright Futures and we're here to help. So I think education is important to everybody for a whole host of economic reasons, for social reasons, for health reasons, and it lies at the heart of what Bright Futures was set up for and what we're trying to do. We want to try to remove barriers so that everybody in the Bailiwick can have access to a good quality education, at least post-schooling years. And we'd like to ensure that everybody has access to vocational or professional training options as well as traditional academic options, because academic qualifications don't suit everybody. And the way that some of these programs are created and developed with leading institutions around the world means that there is an option for pretty much everybody. So it's there for you, it's been tried and tested, the due diligence has been done, the funding element's been done, and you can do it when you want and how you want to do it. Sounds like a good deal to me. So what we need you to do is to tell everybody in Guernsey about it so that they can start to learn. Because one thing I can say to you, hand on heart, is that the future of work is going to look very different to that which it looks today. The skill sets required to fill those jobs of the future are going to look very different to that which they look today. My little boy who's 5, he'll be 6 in December, will be entering the workforce doing a job that doesn't even exist today. He's going to live to 107. Those are all elements of the future of work. So keep in touch with us. We're here to help you. But we need you to do some of the work as well. If you've got any questions, I'm here to answer them as best I can. Otherwise, thanks very much for listening.